This is Bryan Donkin's geometric lathe, a wonderful machine for engraving patterns. From as far back as the 17th century, geometric lathes were used for engraving designs on metal, for snuff boxes and ornamental trinkets. But Bryan Donkin's lathe, otherwise called a rose engine, is unique. It was built in 1820, specifically for engraving printing plates for banknotes. At the beginning of the 19th century, the forgery of banknotes was a big problem, and Sir William Congreve found an answer. He patented a printing process known as compound plate printing in an attempt to stop the counterfeiting. By this method, not only could two colours be printed at once, but the design also incorporated elaborate squirrely line patterns, which made copying very difficult. These patterns were generated by this rose engine, built by Bryan Donkin. The printing plates were cleverly constructed from two interlocking parts, which fitted together exactly, after being inked in two different colours. Bryan Donkin was a talented engineer who had developed the first paper-making machine, amongst other things. He built the special printing machine for compound plate printing, as well as the rose engine lathe, and the printing plates were made in secret at his factory. In the 1820s and 30s, banknotes for several banks were protected by compound plate printing, and all the provincial banks had to have a compound plate printed duty stamp printed on the back. During that time, the rose engine engraved the printing plates for paper duty labels, medicine duty stamps, and advertisements for the lottery. Later, 50 or more manufacturers of household goods, like soap and ink, matches and wine, recognized the beauty of the bicoloured designs for labelling their products and for protecting them from counterfeiting. All these were printed from the ingenious printing plates engraved on this rose engine. When a new stamp was needed for the penny post in 1839, the government held a competition. The London printer, Charles Whiting, submitted several designs engraved on the rose engine, but although they were highly commended, the boring penny black won the day. The machine was worked simply by turning the handle. The printing plate was made of bronze and was held in the chuck of the lathe. And the steel engraving tool was securely mounted on a counterslide. For this demonstration, the tool is replaced by a ballpoint pen and the printing plate by a pad of paper. Of course, the biro produces a black line, whereas the engraving eventually created white lines on the printed pattern. Circular or oval designs can be produced. To make an oval pattern, the chuck is moved off-centre by means of thumb screws, which cause the chuck to move in an elliptical motion. A scale determines the ratio of the oval, making it a fat one or a thin one. You will have noticed by now that, unlike an ordinary lathe, the spindle is free to rock back and forth, as well as turning round and round. There are two methods of controlling this rocking motion to make the pattern. The first is a series of cams, or roses, which are fixed to the spindle, hence the common name for the lathe, the rose engine. An individual cam is brought into contact with the follower. As the spindle is rotated, an exact copy of the rose is produced. The second method, more often used on this lathe, is the moving arm. A pulley system, turned by the operator's handles, simultaneously drives the main spindle and the moving arm. An adjustable cam, or eccentric, determines how far this arm travels. The combination of gear wheels fixes the number of shunts of the arm. And therefore the number of wiggles in the pattern in one revolution of the spindle. Gear ratios are available to produce between 4 and 40 movements per revolution. Other mechanisms allow the pattern to be accurately repeated a shade further along.
Okay.
Now comes the exciting bit. By connecting up another pulley, the gears and shafts cause the tool to turn. The power from the handle is transmitted round two corners of the machine by these clever little bevel gears. All this, combined with the moving arm and the rocking spindle, creates this gloriously complicated movement of the engraving tool. When all this works together, patterns of amazing complexity can be produced. The highly skilled rose engine operator kept coded notes so that he could reproduce the patterns if necessary. Nobody else could do it. For over 100 years, from 1845, revenue stamps for documents in India were printed from plates engraved on the Donkin rose engine. Each new design was recorded in a guard book. In the 1980s, the rose engine was removed through the roof of its secret workshop in Chesterfield for restoration, and in 2001 this historic machine was put on exhibition in the Museum of London, its hometown.